You keep falling for the same type of person. They may look different each time, wear different faces, speak different words, but the ending is always the same: confusion, pain, betrayal, abandonment. Why? Carl Jung believed that love isn't just an emotion, it's a mirror that reflects back to us the parts of ourselves we've never dared to face. And often the people we're drawn to are not our soulmates, but our shadows in disguise. We chase what feels intense, familiar, magnetic. But what if what's pulling you in isn't love, but memory? The echo of a wound you haven't yet healed. An internal imprint that keeps recreating itself in others, hoping to be seen, to be felt, to be resolved. Jung's concept of the shadow refers to everything we repress: desires, fears, pain, even strength. These parts don't disappear, they become unconscious. And what's unconscious doesn't just stay hidden. It influences every choice you make, including who you love. So what if your heartbreaks weren't random? What if they were patterns? Patterns formed long ago, shaped by the first people who taught you what love felt like. Maybe love felt like silence, or chaos, or abandonment. And maybe that's what you keep looking for now. This video is not about blaming yourself for loving the wrong people. It's about understanding why your heart keeps returning to the same fire, hoping it won't burn you this time. Because healing doesn't start with the next person. It starts with the next realization. And that realization is this: you're not choosing wrong because you're unworthy. You're choosing what your unconscious believes is familiar. But familiarity is not love. Intensity is not intimacy. And chemistry is not compatibility. Carl Jung didn't offer surface-level advice. He offered maps to the unconscious, maps to the places we've buried ourselves. And if you've ever felt lost in love, if you've ever wondered why your story keeps repeating, this journey is for you. By the end, you'll see that the people you've loved, even those who hurt you, were mirrors of your shadow. And if you can understand that, you can start choosing not from your wounds, but from your wisdom. Why are we drawn to people who hurt us? Why does pain feel like passion? Why do we keep calling suffering soulmate energy? Jung believed the psyche is structured by the past, especially the parts we try to forget. If you grew up feeling unseen, neglected, controlled, or abandoned, your mind doesn't erase that experience. It encodes it. It turns it into a blueprint. That blueprint becomes your unconscious definition of love. So what feels familiar, even if it's painful, becomes magnetic. You feel a pull towards someone, not because they're right for you, but because they fit the emotional script you've always known. The brain confuses intensity for meaning, chaos for chemistry, and absence for longing. We think we've found the one, when really, we've found a mirror for our wounds. Imagine this: if your nervous system learned that love feels like anxiety or distance, then calm, healthy connection might feel boring or even threatening. This is why we stay with people who harm us, because deep inside, there's a part of us that believes, if I can make this person love me, I can finally heal the original wound. But that healing never comes, because you're not healing, you're reenacting. Reenactment is the unconscious mind's way of trying to fix the past by repeating it in the present. It's not your fault, it's your programming until you break the loop. The first step is awareness. Start by asking, what does love feel like to me? If your answer includes anxiety, fear, unavailability, or emotional hunger, you're not broken. You're operating on an outdated model, and models can be updated. When you meet someone who triggers peace instead of panic, your system might resist. You'll tell yourself you're not attracted, but what's really happening is that your unconscious is learning a new language. Love that doesn't hurt feels foreign until it doesn't. Jung taught that our outer relationships reflect our inner divisions. The people we attract often carry the qualities we've suppressed or disowned. When you find yourself in the same type of painful relationship again, it's a call to explore not what's wrong with them, but what inside you keeps calling them in. This chapter isn't about guilt. It's about clarity. Once you can see the pattern, you can begin to choose differently. Familiarity is not fate, and pain is not proof of love. When you fall for someone, what are you really seeing? Jung believed that love, especially intense, sudden, magnetic love, is often projection. It's not the person you're in love with. It's the parts of you you've disowned, repressed, or forgotten, now reflected in someone else. In other words, the person you love becomes a canvas, and your psyche paints on that canvas everything it wishes it could be, or everything it's trying to resolve. If you've ever felt obsessed with someone quickly, if they lit up your world with a kind of unbearable urgency, odds are you weren't seeing them. You were seeing your unconscious brought to life. Maybe they embodied your buried strength or your suppressed sensuality. Maybe their aloofness mirrored a parent's neglect, or their chaos reminded you of a childhood you tried to survive. This is the shadow falling in love, not with the person in front of you, but with the inner image they've activated. Jung described the anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine archetypes that exist within all of us. When we meet someone who matches this inner figure, we project onto them an entire mythology. Suddenly, we believe we've found the one. But what we've really found is the unconscious, crying out for integration. That's why the beginning feels euphoric. You don't just like them, you need them. Because unconsciously, you think they're holding something you've lost. And when they fail to live up to the fantasy, as they always do, you feel betrayed, not by them, but by your own illusion. This is the moment most relationships crumble, when the projection wears off and reality sets in. You didn't fall in love with them. You fell in love with your missing self. But this isn't bad. It's human. Projection shows you what you long to embody, and that's where the work begins. Instead of chasing the one who holds your power, ask yourself, what is it about them that I feel I lack? Is it their confidence, their calm, their edge? Because what you admire in others is often the very thing waiting to be awakened in you. The shadow doesn't only hide your pain, it hides your potential. And love, real, transformative love, begins when you reclaim what you've projected. So the next time someone takes your breath away, slow down, look inward. Is it love or recognition? When the shadow is unconscious, it chooses for you. When it becomes conscious, it guides you. And that shift from compulsion to clarity is what makes love less about being rescued and more about being real. Projection is not just a psychological defense, it's a survival mechanism. We project not because we're flawed, but because it's how we've been taught to understand ourselves. From early childhood, we're trained to suppress what isn't acceptable. Anger, neediness, desire, vulnerability, they all get buried. But buried doesn't mean gone. What's hidden becomes hungry, and that hunger leaks out in dreams, in fantasies, and in the people we choose. Think of projection as the shadow's way of trying to get your attention. When you meet someone new, your mind searches for patterns. Does this person make you feel something old, something raw, something intense? That's the trap. The more intense the feeling, the more likely it's not about them. You might think you're in love, but what you're really experiencing is a reenactment of your own unconscious themes. Take, for example, the emotionally unavailable partner. On the surface, you're frustrated, but underneath, you might be reliving a time when love was something you had to chase, something withheld, something you never felt worthy of, and that dynamic feels familiar. So you dive in, you try harder, you give more, because if you can make them love you, maybe you can finally heal the part of you that always felt unlovable. But that's not love. That's the projection trap. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. We don't see others as they are. We see them as we are, filtered through our wounds, our history, our unmet needs. So how do we escape this trap? First, awareness. The moment you feel that magnetic pull, pause. Ask yourself, what story am I projecting onto this person? Are they truly the one, or do they just resemble the ghost of someone you once needed? Second, reflection. What parts of me feel incomplete? What am I expecting them to carry for me? Third, integration. Begin the process of reclaiming what you've projected. If they seem powerful, cultivate your own strength. If they feel nurturing, nurture yourself. Because the more whole you become, the less you need others to complete you. You can still love, but now it's from freedom, not fantasy. You're no longer acting out a script, you're writing a new one. That's how you dissolve the projection, not by cutting people off, but by becoming curious about what they awaken in you. The trap only exists when you're asleep to your patterns. Wake up and you're free. Once you recognize the pattern, you're faced with a choice. Repeat it or rewrite it. This is where most people hesitate, because even when the pattern hurts, it's familiar, and the unfamiliar, even if it's better, feels terrifying. Jung said the greatest danger lies not in our darkness, but in our refusal to face it. To break the cycle, you have to become someone new, not by changing who you are, but by shedding the parts that were never truly you. The beliefs, behaviors, and fears you inherited just to survive. The pattern begins to break the moment you choose differently. When you feel that familiar pull towards someone who excites your trauma, and instead, you pause, you breathe, you wait, that is healing. When you say no to chaos and yes to peace, even when peace feels dull at first, that is power. Breaking the pattern isn't about perfection, it's about awareness. The pattern says, love is earned. You say, love is given freely, or it's not love. The pattern says, I need them to feel whole. You say, I am already whole. The pattern says, if I suffer enough, they'll stay. You say, I don't trade dignity for connection. Each time you choose differently, you send a message to your nervous system. We are safe now, and slowly, the body follows. The cravings fade. The need to fix others dissolves. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer react, you respond. This is the path of individuation, not becoming better, becoming real. At the core of Jung's philosophy lies a simple truth. We are not meant to be perfect. We are meant to be whole. And yet most of us walk through life as fragments. We split ourselves into acceptable and unacceptable, into light and dark, into what we show the world and what we bury in the shadow. Love then becomes a search for the missing pieces. We don't just seek partners. We seek parts of ourselves that we have lost or never allowed to exist. Maybe you look for confidence in another because you learned to silence your own voice. Maybe you crave nurturing because you were taught strength means denying your needs. Maybe you chase excitement because somewhere inside, your fire was extinguished too early. So when someone appears and activates that dormant energy, it doesn't just feel like attraction. It feels like homecoming. But it's not them you're coming home to. It's a forgotten self knocking at the door. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming whole by reintegrating the rejected parts of ourselves. And relationships, especially romantic ones, are among the most powerful mirrors we have. The ones who trigger us, challenge us, excite us, and sometimes even destroy us. They are not accidents. They are invitations. But invitations are only powerful if you answer them. To reclaim wholeness, you must begin to ask different questions. Not, why did they leave me, but what part of me did they carry? Not, why do I keep getting hurt, but what pattern am I unconsciously playing out, and why? Not, will I ever be loved, but where have I abandoned myself in search of love? Because healing doesn't mean erasing your past. It means meeting it with compassion. The inner child who learned that love meant proving yourself, let her rest. The part of you that chased emotionally unavailable people, forgive it. It was only trying to win a battle that began long before them. You cannot reclaim your power without first reclaiming your pain, not by drowning in it, but by finally holding it in your hands and saying, I see you, you mattered, you shaped me, but you don't have to lead anymore. From that place, awareness, softness, and sovereignty, something beautiful happens. You stop needing love to feel worthy, and you start attracting love that reflects your worth. You stop mistaking intensity for connection, and you begin to recognize calm as sacred. You stop assigning others the task of making you feel whole, because you've become that person for yourself. And suddenly the people you once obsessed over begin to lose their power, not because they changed, but because you did. Wholeness doesn't mean you'll never feel broken again. It means you'll know how to return to yourself when you do. You'll recognize the signs when a wound is choosing and have the strength to pause. You'll set boundaries not from fear, but from self-respect. You'll walk away, not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about you. Reclaiming wholeness is a quiet revolution. It doesn't always look like fire. Sometimes it looks like stillness, like saying no, like not texting back, like being alone on a Friday night and feeling peaceful instead of panicked. It's in those moments you realize the love you were searching for wasn't in another person. It was in the version of you that no longer betrays yourself to feel chosen. That's the real wholeness. Not perfection, but presence. And you, as you are with your past, your scars, your longing, are already enough. You always were. What happens after you reclaim your wholeness? The world doesn't magically change. You still meet people. You still feel attraction. You still long. But something subtle and powerful has shifted. Now you choose consciously. You no longer hand the steering wheel to your wounds. You no longer confuse intensity with truth. Instead, you begin to witness your patterns without becoming them. And from this space of awareness, love becomes something different, not a rescue, not a mirror, but a conscious offering. Carl Jung believed that true love can only exist between two individuals who have faced their own shadows. Otherwise, what we call love is often just projection and possession wearing a mask of romance. So what does conscious love look like? It looks like choosing someone not because they fill a void, but because they honor your fullness. It looks like knowing your triggers and naming them, not blaming them. It looks like telling the truth, even when silence would feel safer. It looks like building trust slowly, not mistaking chemistry for certainty. It looks like pausing when old instincts arise, the urge to fix, chase, or prove, and instead asking, is this love or fear speaking? This is sacred work, because love becomes less about what you feel and more about how you show up. And in that shift, you stop needing someone to complete your story. You write it together, not from lack, but from alignment. But conscious love isn't always easy. In fact, sometimes it feels harder at first. There's less intoxication, more honesty, less chaos, more clarity. The highs aren't as extreme, but the peace is deeper. And when conflict arises, you no longer default to survival mode. You lean into understanding, because you've done that with yourself first. The sacred art of conscious love begins with how you love you. Do you abandon yourself when someone pulls away? Do you silence your truth to be accepted? Do you ignore red flags because the pain feels familiar? If the answer is yes, that's not failure. It's an invitation to come home again and again and again, because awareness is not a one-time realization. It's a practice, a relationship, a discipline. Every moment you choose presence over projection, self-respect over approval, inner peace over old patterns, you honor the sacred in yourself. And something beautiful begins to happen. You start to attract people who reflect your healing, not your wounds. You stop falling into connection like a hole. You step into it like a temple, where the other is not a savior, not a fantasy, but a mirror who reflects what is real, not what is missing. And in that mirror, you're not afraid of what you see, because you've already met your darkness. You've already reclaimed your light. This is conscious love, not perfect, not painless, but profound. It holds space for complexity, for duality, for growth. It honors freedom over control, curiosity over certainty, presence over performance. And when it ends, if it ends, it doesn't destroy you, because you didn't lose yourself in it. You found yourself through it. And that's the mark of sacred relationship, not how long it lasts, but how deeply it transforms. So if you're still afraid to love again after healing, let this chapter reassure you. You will still feel, you will still be moved. But now you'll choose from awareness, not absence, from fullness, not fear. And that one difference changes everything. Because now, when love knocks, you don't answer with desperation, you answer with truth. And when you say yes, it's not from hunger, it's from wholeness. So here we are, at the edge of something new. If you've listened this far, you already know the people you fall for aren't just people. They are portals. Portals into your deepest beliefs, your unconscious fears, and your unmet needs. Carl Jung didn't promise easy answers. He didn't give us a quick fix for love. What he offered was more valuable, a path inward, a way to understand that the chaos outside reflects the conflict within. Every heartbreak you've endured wasn't a mistake, it was a message. Every toxic connection wasn't a failure, it was a mirror. Every pattern you repeated wasn't weakness, it was wisdom trying to break through. And now you're seeing it. You're beginning to understand that you were never broken, only divided. Divided between who you had to be to survive and who you truly are when you're free. Wholeness is not a destination, it's a practice, a choice you make again and again to return to yourself, even when it's hard. Even when the old story tries to pull you back. because the old story will return. The urge to chase what hurts, the temptation to call it love, the fear of being alone, they will all rise. But now you know better. Now you have language for what once felt like chaos. Now you can say, "This is not love. This is my shadow speaking." And instead of obeying it blindly, you meet it with curiosity, with compassion, with strength. You begin to rewrite your story, not to erase the past, but to give it new meaning. You forgive yourself, not just for the choices you made, but for the pain you didn't yet know how to understand. You release others, not because they didn't hurt you, but because holding on keeps you frozen. You choose yourself, not in a selfish way, but in the most sacred way. And in doing so, you unlock a new kind of love. A love rooted in truth, a love built on awareness, a love where presence replaces projection. This kind of love doesn't rescue you, it recognizes you. It sees you, not as half, but whole. It meets you, not in need, but in mutual growth. And that love becomes possible the moment you decide, "I am done repeating." You are not here to suffer in the name of connection. You are here to heal through it. You are not here to prove your worth to someone who cannot see it. You are here to remember it for yourself. You are not here to be chosen by someone else. You are here to finally choose you. Welcome home. Welcome to your wholeness.